check them out, look at them, enjoy. You're gonna have a scrumptious time.
And if you don't enjoy, don't tell us. Quack.
Welcome to the Little Duck Book Club with duck number 1,
Ran, and duck number 2,
Anna. And today we have another list for you, and just only for you.
Who doesn't love a good list? Everyone
Honestly,
loves lists.
It's like watchmojo.com, you know? It's like...
Readmojo.com. Incredibly
Join us today.
Personalized lists that nobody else cares about.
It's like, where do they know that from? Okay, today we want to talk about the favorite book series we have. We already talked about favorite books, favorite characters, and now we've gotten to favorite series, because there was a restriction we did last time when we talked about the favorite books. Because I was like...
we were like, you can take several books from a series, but you cannot just pick a series. Because those are different things. And, like... I am very particular. I love lists, but also you've got to be adhering to the specifics of the list. You can't just put other stuff on there. It's got to be the correct kind of list.
Especially if you have like a favorite or like top kind of list, right? There need to be rules put in place in order to make these top series stand out to any other series. So, I completely agree. We did have the rule that it was only a series if it had more than 2 books. So at least 3.
Yeah.
Which honestly really made the list kind of small for me in the beginning. Because I was like, shit, a lot of books I like. It's like duologies.
Yeah.
But yeah, at least 3 books. We said we do allow manga. Mainly because I asked. I was like, hey...
I was like, we totally can.
Yeah, and I was like, I need to, honestly.
It's valid.
Do we want to just...
We can do whatever we want.
Honestly, it's our channel. Do we want to start from 5 to 2, and then before we do 1, we do the honorable mentions again? I think that's what we usually do, right?
We can do that, although, again... I've said this to you, but not on record, private. Obviously. I have struggled with this. At first you were like, dude, you probably have way more series to read. I have read a lot of series, most of which I would never class as my favorites on any kind of list, right? Some of which I'm like, okay, this was fine, this was good, and I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't put it on a list of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
So I'm like... So I have, like, my top 3, and for the other ones, I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. I don't know. They don't really belong here, but we had to do 5. Like, we agreed on 5. So that's what we gotta do. And I'm also very upsetty spaghetti, because recently, over the past few years, I've also read a lot of first books in trilogies or longer series, but the rest was not out, or I just haven't read the rest yet, and I'm like... Some of these are, like, tailor-made to my taste. And like, they would totally be on this list if I had read more than 1 book of these, right? If I had more information on it, these would totally make the list. But so far, I just don't... don't have the right material for the list.
Same with me. And, like, spoiler alert, the Murderbot series is not on here. Because I only read the first one, and I've started reading the second one. So I wasn't able to put it on here. But it would be... It would be.
I mean, honestly, if I read more than the first one, this might also be on here, but I have not done so yet. And I read the first one after we made our video on favorite books, so I can't include it there. Although it probably also wouldn't be on there. Like, I like it a lot, but...
Yeah, the other books were too powerful.
I have way more favorite standalones. Like, I have way stronger feelings about a lot of standalones I read than I have about the series I've read.
Yeah.
It's... The discrepancy is so fucking funny, because there I was like, dude, I had like a list of 30 books, I have like 20 runner-ups, and here I'm like, dude, I have like 3 series and the rest is kind of like, whatever. Like, it's dire out here is what I'm saying.
I struggled a lot, and then once you were like, oh, like, put your back into it. Go into, like, your mind palace and find old series you liked. It was like, oh, shit, I actually did have quite a few. So I wrote down a couple. But I also wrote some meh. So maybe we can also start like from least to most, if that's what you prefer. Because then
I love that we can do from least to most.
that's
we can do least and then we can do most. That's what we're doing. But you mean we start from the runner-ups and then go into the top 5?
Honestly, the way I have sorted, I have like my 5. Then I have honorable mentions, which if I were unhinged, I would put them in the top 5. But honestly, no. And then I'm flirting with them, but they're not really making it past the talking stage of favorites.
Yeah, let's start with those because I do have a number of those as well.
So my first one in the talking stage would be Shadow and Bone, because I do like the Grisha-verse. And I was upset that I couldn't put Six of Crows on this list because it's a duology. But Shadow and Bone was fun for me. I really liked it, but I like it more, and like the reading experience was fun, right? But it's like it's just not enough. But I was thinking about it. One day I did put a little notch behind it, but it just didn't.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One of the ones where I was like, well, I am insane about some of these characters, so maybe I will put the series in. But then I was like, no, I haven't given any of these books better than 3 stars, so I can't put this on here. And we're talking about The Folk of the Air by Holly Black. I was like, I do like these, and I have read all of these multiple times, but also they're just not my favorite because they're just not good. So I'm like, I can't put them on my favorites because I do think about them a lot, and I think there's a lot to say, but I don't think they're good or my favorite.
I have Cruel Prince right underneath your Shadow and Bone because I was like, honestly, but for me, kind of, like gaslighting myself because we did videos on each of the books and I enjoyed making those videos, so the reading experience kind of
course,
like morphed into that. But yeah, that would have been my second one. I was like, oh.
Yeah, and it's like, we made videos. I would love to put Maddox into, a little jar and like shake him because he's just so fun. But the book series itself, no, we're not doing that now.
No, I'm there with you.
No.
So, what would be your second one? Because my second one was Cruel Prince, so...
Yeah, so my second one was Witchlands by Susan Dennard, where I'm like, I really do like these books. I think I've read the first one twice, and I liked it both times because I read it a long time before the others came out, and then I waited until like the next 2 or 3 were out, and I read all of those in one. But it's not finished yet. So, and I feel like it can do a lot for a series, how it ends. So I'm like, this could nosedive heavily. So since it's not finished, I can't put it on my favorites list. Because what if it goes off the rails? Plunges in quality. These things can happen. Like, I've read things where I was like, oh, it's going okay. And then it went like,
yeah, you don't want to endorse something that we're not sure whether
I can't endorse it without knowing the facts. I can't do it. So I was like, oh,
I totally get it.
But it's also been a while since I've read them, so I'm like, do I actually like them that much? Yeah. Or was I just so excited to read a fantasy series that was very original, had very interesting world building, and was like actually well crafted after reading a bunch of, YA stuff that really should have taken another round of edits at minimum.
No.
So I'm like, do I even care that much? I don't know. But I was like, man. Maybe next time. Maybe in 5 years when we try this again.
I mean, once all the books are out, reread them, and then you can like figure out whether this was actually something where you said, oh yeah, I did.
Yeah, I think the last one comes out this year, so I'm really excited about that. There's one in between that I haven't read since I read the last one like a few years ago. I think before the pandemic, probably. Jesus. So like a year ago, you're right? Yeah, so like it was 2019, like 2 years ago, something like that. Yeah. But yeah, that one's it for me.
I also had, because it was like, this is like a new love, you know, but we're not really vibing yet. But I mean, it's Captive Prince. I enjoyed it. I really did, but I wouldn't call it favorite, right? Like, it hit a lot of marks to make it a favorite series, but it's like, it's too soon. It's not.
You need to let it marinate a bit before you decide if it's a favorite.
So that was like a summer romance, you know? It's like, not sure whether I'm going to revisit next summer, kind of, sort of.
I see.
And I have two like runner-up honorable mentions, a series. The first one is a manga, and it's like the plot was so dumb. Called Hanakimi. It's quite old. They back in the day it was really big. They made a real life show out of it.
I was about to say this sounds extremely familiar. Is it a romance one?
It's a romance one. Okay. It's the one where a girl goes to a complete boys' school, because like her crush is there as well. She saw him on the TV because he's like a high jumper, and she was like, oh my god, that man is so beautiful. And then she goes to the school, and obviously she has to pretend she's a boy, but it's a boarding school. Guess who she rooms with? Her crush. Guess who finds out on the very first day that she's a girl? Her crush. But he's like,
of course,
I cannot tell, like, this is a secret. Who like, what are her reasons, right? She doesn't know, because he finds out like when she passes out, I think, because of exhaustion or something.
Classic.
And it was like, it's the typical romance manga experience. They have the filler episodes at the beach. They have the sports events. You know, they have these silly little school events. It's perfect. It struck a lot of notes back, because I wasn't reading any romance as a young teenager. I was like, that shit is boring. Except for this. This one I was like, yes. Dish it up, please. No, I really enjoyed it.
Fuck me up, Hanakimi.
Give it to me. No, it was, and the show was really funny as well. Like, they managed to transfer the humor perfectly. So if you're not into reading, why are you even here? But if you're not into reading this specific manga, feel free to check out the show. Very fun. Very fun. All right, oh no, you were done with your runner-ups, right?
Yeah, I have some where I was like just writing it down because I was out of like ideas, and then I was like, I don't care that much about this at all. Like, this was good, but I don't like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that's like well crafted where you're like, no, this was really good, but it's not that like,
it doesn't tickle you.
It doesn't leave an emotional residue. Like, I'd be like, oh, I totally recommend this to somebody who I think, like, who likes these kinds of things, because I do think it's good, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I wrote down the Mortal Engines Quartet by Philip Reeves.
Right,
but, like,
you did really like that one.
I did really like it. I was like, this is really well written. I like the style. I like the wordplay. It's very fun. Like, it has the kind of, like, silly shenanigans that you expect from like a middle grade YA thing, but it's also not shying away from any of the darker aspect that it's introducing. So I think it's like, it's just a really well done series, but like, I don't really care that much. Like, I'm like, this is for you. I feel like if you read this, you would be like, ooh, this is tasty.
Yeah, no.
But like, for me, it's like, it was good. I had a really good time reading them. I was excited to read them. I was glad the library had them. Otherwise, I would never have touched them, because I was like, well, probably not for me, but like, you know, let's just see what it is. And they were really good, but like, again, I'm like, I don't care that much.
Yeah.
Like, I would, if there was like a pile of books about to be burned, these were not the ones I would save. You know, this is not my favorite in that regard.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fine. You can have an extremely enjoyable experience reading a book or series and still not put them on your favorites.
Yeah, it's just like that.
Yeah. My second and last honorable mention I have is actually, I think during the top books thing, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna save this for the honorable mentions, like in the favorite series part. I don't know if you remember it, but it's an extremely ridiculous Star Wars series called Jedi Padawan. I don't know whether you remember, because another friend of ours was reading these with me at the same time. And it's basically it's a series, I think it's like 17 books or something. Except that for the first one, they're all written by the same author. And it follows the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi as a Padawan to Qui-Gon Jinn. And like from the start, he gets picked, or not picked, he actually gets like thrown at the guy, is like by himself. Like he runs after him, gets himself into trouble, and then Qui-Gon is like, I'm stuck with a kid now. Well, sucks to be
forced
me, I guess.
Adoption.
Yeah, it's the forced grumpy old person taking care of a child trope, which is one of the reasons why I love the series. It's just so dumb. Like 17 books or even more of just the most insane kind of Star Wars extended universe shit. If you are a person that has ever read like one of these extended universe books, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because sometimes the authors just do whatever the fuck they want there. But I just love, like, Obi-Wan is a little menace in the books. He quits the Jedi Order like 15 times. Qui-Gon Jinn is not the best master. He himself is like, fuck it, I have the Force and a lightsaber. That's where it ends. That's the Jedi Codex for you, right? So it's just really funny to read. And the experience of reading it was just very joyful, because there's short books. So it's like, I think it's like 200 pages or something at most per book. So you also get through them quite quickly. So that's an honorable mention. I was like, I do really like this series. Like, it's dumb, but it's beautiful.
I mean, we're not here to judge about quality.
Right.
It's about whatever you enjoy. I mean, we said this in the favorite books one as well. It's like, it's not really about the quality. It's about hitting that soft spot in your brain where you go, awooga. And that's, that's where it ends.
Do you have to say this while I took like a big gulp of my tea?
Oh my God, sorry.
Oh, Jesus. It's fine. No, I get it. That's why I was like, because I couldn't pick one favorite book out of the series. So I was like, no, I'm going to wait until we do a video on that. But yeah, those are my honorable mentions before we move further into the top 5.
Yeah. I have nothing else.
You have nothing else. All right. Do you want to start with your 5th place then?
Sure, I can. Because we've just talked about quality. I can legitimately not necessarily tell if this is well written. I've seen people be like, oh, this is terribly written, but then I'm like, no, actually it's not that bad. But it's also like, just putting this on the list is very telling about me, because it is like, oh, you spent a lot of time on Tumblr in 2016 is what it says about me. And because the book series is All for the Game by Noah Sakovic, which is
I want to read that one.
Which is like, very telling. I just need to mention this, and it's like, oh, this says a lot about you as a person.
It does. It do be like that.
Yeah. No, it's like, listen, if you enjoy fan fiction, and if you enjoy not quite sports anime, but adjacent things, this is what this is. It has the character-driven writing style of fan fiction, and it is incredibly fun. I like it, which is why it's on the list. I don't like it nearly as much as my top 3, but I was like, you know what? I did reread this several times. I'll probably reread it again, because these are just so fun, and you can just read all 3 in a row, and you're like, wow, yeah, no, I'll just keep reading. There's something engaging about it to me.
Yeah, it's what the fan fiction writing style does to you, honestly. It's like, can demolish so many words.
Yeah.
No, that book series has been on my list as well.
I also, it's also, I think, the only series, it's not part of the advertising thing, but I think it's, the one thing I've ever read where I was like, this is probably the most compelling representation of demisexuality that I've seen, without, being like, hey, look at this, look at us using the... it's just, the main character is so obviously demisexual when you read it, that it's like, wow, no, it's like refreshing.
Yeah.
Because
it's not forced.
Yeah, it's not at all. And it's also like, obviously the books are a product of their time, but also it's like, there's a lot of modern books that are aimed at a queer audience that make quite an effort to have, to have everyone speak in the correct terminology and make an effort to like be like, oh, you should, think about it. Does this term apply more to you or this? Like when people figure out their sexuality, and it's just not, this appeals not at all to me. This, like, I read it and I cringe. I totally understand that this appeals to some people. To me, not at all. If you're doing this, I stop reading. If I read this in any kind of fiction, be it traditionally published or fanfic or anything, I'm like, nah, we're not doing this. Yeah. Right? And like, this doesn't do it at all. Obviously, this series, if you've heard about it, it comes with like a massive list of trigger warnings because it does deal with a lot of heavy subjects, but yeah.
That's just...
It's just what it is. Like, that shit does go crazy, and like most of these characters are traumatized, so you can imagine all kinds of things that can traumatize
a person,
young adult, and growing up or like as an adult.
Again,
all of it's in there.
It's Tumblr 2016, baby. Like that's just...
it's like, listen, this is
Tumblr pre-Voltron was a different beast, man.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was never into Voltron. I have not watched it, but you could not escape the discourse.
Say, you still felt the quakes of...
I still know what kind of topics are like the main points of discourse, which I shouldn't know. Because I have never given a singular shit about Voltron in my life.
Yeah, but if you were on Tumblr before Voltron, you guys will get what kind of vibes the book series has.
No, it's like, it's very telling. You can look at it and be like, of course you have blue hairs and pronouns and you were on Tumblr in 2016. Of course this is a book series you like. But it's also like, it's from the same time. I also thought about putting Captive Prince on here, but I read it so long ago and I was like, I did really, really like it, but also I just...
Too long ago.
I don't know if I still like it. I probably would, but it's just not on my radar at all. So
yeah.
But they're from the same era of Tumblr, and it's like, yeah, I know.
All right. So my number 5, and feel free to cringe. But my number 5 is Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I was
critically acclaimed, like highly decorated book series. Feel free to cringe.
No, because you're like, you. Whenever I'm like, oh, I'm such a Hunger Games person, you're like, oh yeah, the books were really nice, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like,
Yeah, but that's, that is the cringe part, but that's, putting it on a list of favorite books is not on that scale of cringe.
I just love the books, man. The way that Suzanne Collins writes was just really appealing to me when I read the books for the first time. I loved Katniss. I loved the character that was not immediately like... Because the romantic feelings she feels, especially in the first book, in the beginning for Gale, it was like the same kind of thing where I was like, as a teenager, like, this feels like the sort of, it's expected of me to like someone. And this is the someone who's here. So obviously, and the someone is pretty, so I will feel those feelings. And when she just gets to go off, when she has to go to, play those games and be in a tournament.
To go to the children
when
murder
she gets
tournament.
To go murder people. I was like, honestly, that's so refreshing. I need more of that. And I am a huge PETA person. I love him.
You love the blonde boys. We've talked about this.
Listen, book PETA is so much more sassy than the movie version. If you only watch the movies, please read the books. He is unhinged in the books.
But also read the books because you're missing out on Katniss's extremely funny inner monologue. Like, so he is so funny sometimes and you're just like, damn, Katniss. Man.
It's like, girl, I swear, stop.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, no, it's like, I love the books to bits. I'm always a bit upset if people say that they don't like the third book, because that's like, I'd say, my favorite out of the whole series. But I get it. You know, it's the only book without an actual Hunger Game. And that is one thing that people like a lot. But
I think it's also just that the third one is just so much more serious, in the sense that, like, half of your favorites are dying, and that's just how it goes. Like, that's...
It might be one of those.
I understand that people don't... And obviously a lot of people, like the first one, because the first one is just, like, oh, here's, like, the fun concept of murder games. Yeah. Look at the fun murder game. And that's what they like about it. Like, the suspense of the murder games, and everything around it is just whatever.
Yeah. But, yeah, that's my number 5. It definitely had to be in the first 5. I just wasn't sure of the position that it was going to get.
I love the comparison, because it's like my favorite, the gay trash, your favorite, critically acclaimed book series that spawned a whole subgenre of imitators who never lived up to the original, you know?
I was like, we're going to get to go real serious in a second after fanfiction. All right, who's your number 4?
My number 4 is indeed a manga. Because we were like, you know what? We can include them. I was like, listen, what else do I even like? And then I went through the ones I own, because I own all the ones that I feel very strongly about. I mean, there is also one I really enjoy that I do not own at all, but that one is more like of a comedy thing, and not like I enjoy this as like a whole, because the art in it is like not my taste. But this one I love a lot, which is Pandora Hearts by Jun Mochizuki, which is like, it is so gorgeous. Like, the art is so beautiful. I own both 2 Pandora Hearts art books because I like it so much. I own, like, I have the whole 25, I think, like, volumes.
Yeah.
I just it's very good. Like, it, you know, it starts off like silly, like a lot of them, like a lot of manga start like with a more lighter tone and then get very serious, and it does get extremely serious later on. Yeah. And one of my favorite little guys dies. You know how it goes. That's just how it is.
If you want Ren to like your series, kill their favorite character. It's fine.
No, commit to the bit. If you want to be like dark and serious, you've got to kill some of them. Like, it's just how these things go. Like, I can't take it seriously if you're like so obviously precious, when you're like, no, but people like this guy. It's like, yeah, and you know they'll like him even more if you give him a tragic death, and they'll be obsessed with him. This is normal. Do it.
This is like valid for half the cast of Attack on Titan, you know? It's like, person had like 10 seconds on screen and dies, boom, fandom favorite. It is what it is.
But yeah, no, it's...
But what genre is Pandora Hearts? It's like fantasy, right?
Yeah, it is fantasy. Absolutely. It's like, aesthetically, there's a lot of Victorian England in there, but the kind of Victorian England aesthetic you get from anime and manga, not accurately. You know, the inspiration is there, but the style is obviously changed to be like...
Yeah, like the Black Butler kind
more
of
fun
style.
And a bit more like modern and like, but I also think Black Butler makes even more of an effort. Like, Pandora Hearts is a lot more, because it is just fantasy, it's very much more out there sometimes, and just as like fun, crazy anime stuff with the outfits. Yeah.
So, like, maybe just a short, what is Pandora Hearts about? Because I've seen a lot of art, I've heard the title a lot.
How do we phrase
Okay.
This was difficult to summarize because so much happened. But you have basically a world in which there exists a dark subrealm, which is called the Abyss, in which like distorted like fantasy creatures live that you can contract, and then you can basically like work together with them, use their powers and stuff like that. But they're also very dangerous, and if you do it wrong, it kills you. Basically. And it's highly like, obviously it's highly regulated, and like there's a lot going on, but you also have our main character who is from one of the families that are in control of the abyss and like all the all that stuff. And he gets, on his birthday, when he's supposed to, reach his majority, he gets shoved into the abyss, and in there he befriends one of those creatures and they make a contract and he gets out.
Oh.
And then it's basically kind of a mystery trying to figure out, okay, who is this like group of people who shoved me in there? What were they doing? I was literally just a little guy. And also a race against the clock, because the way they sealed their contract was the way that kills you after a while if you use the powers too much. So that's that. So that's a fun bit. And then later it goes crazy off the rails because a lot of stuff gets like revealed where it's just oh my god, this is crazy. But one thing I also like about it is that our two main characters, Oz and Alice, the like person he contracts, which looks like a young girl, they are very close, but there is nothing romantic about it by the end. Like it's not a romance at all. Like there are scenes where you can read it romantically if you would like to, but also you do not have to. Like it's not very present, and it's not at all the point of it.
Yeah. Huh.
But obviously, like most manga, it has like a wacky cast of characters. You have some crazy people. You have everything.
No,
it's got everything.
Huh. Yeah. I know. I finally know what it's about, because I'm always like, oh yeah, it's like those kind of pop culture things that drive by, and you're like, I know you a little bit, but you never really engage.
No, it is very good, and you should not, if you can, do not watch the anime. It's not good. There are some good parts. Like the soundtrack is really good because a lot of it is done by Yuki Kajiura, which obviously makes a lot of good anime soundtracks. But like a large appeal of the story is that the art style is really gorgeous. Yun Mochizuki does a lot of work just with ink and pen. Like later on there's also a lot more screen tones, but it is beautiful and very detailed, and it's just, the animation style is so bog standard cheap anime that is done as an advertisement for the manga that it's just like, it's not worth it, man. Do not do this to yourself.
It doesn't do it justice.
Do the good version. Look at the good version.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get that.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, well, my next one, number 4, is also a manga. And that's Kakaishi by Yellow Tanabe. I think it's a pretty small fandom. I got introduced by the back of like, in the back of the Naruto volumes, they would have all these kind of, these are the other shonen you could like, right?
They used to advertise like other things that were running at the same time.
And I saw the Kakaishi one, I was like, oh, this looks interesting, right? And back in the day, they had all of the episodes for free on YouTube, like obviously not super legally. And
they were on YouTube.
And I was watching them, and I was like, this is great, honestly. I love it. And then I found out that they only made the first story arc into an anime, and that the manga has like 80% more of content. Yeah. So I was like, I found a treasure trove, right? And I read the whole manga, and it was amazing. I read another series by Yellow Tanabe, which I recently found out actually finished. So I'm thinking about just going back and reading it now again, because I'm like, wait, it's finally finished. Because the thing is, at some point they stopped translating them to German.
Yeah.
And with the other series, they stopped translating them to English at all. Right? So I was like, please, girl, please don't stop making these. Like, I'm not gonna get more involved in these series if you don't
have to learn Japanese.
Right? But yeah, Kakaishi was one of the first manga where I genuinely liked the main character, because in a lot of shonen I like the ensemble as a whole, or the premise. But in Kakaishi I was like, bro, this is my jam, because he's a nice person. He's the typical lazy high school student, but at the same time, he cares for his family. Like, he's not like I hate, like, he cares for his family. He has a very appropriate crush on the female main character. All he wants is to become a baker. He bakes cakes a lot. And then, of course, there's leftover. And he brings the cake to the night duties they have as like spirit guardians to bring to his crush and be like, oh, do you like the cake? Because he wants her to smile. He wants her to be like, oh, I love the cake. So I was like, Yoshi, I love you. This is perfect. There's a very interesting relationship between him and his brother in just a good like examination of what happens if the person nobody of the family expected gets all the responsibility, and the person that was kind of brought up to like go through those responsibilities does not get the job because fate said fuck you. Kind of trying to figure that one out. And it has ghost dogs.
Oh.
Sassy ghost dogs. Sassy ghost dogs who have been ghosts for like the last, I think one of them is 400 years old, the other one is 300 years old. And they're just like super sassy, and they're just like, oh, you're so bad at your job, I don't want to help you. It's like, it's perfect. If you're into that, look it up. It's chef's kiss. I really like
Chef's
Kakashi.
kiss.
Yeah, that's all I gotta say to that.
Well, that's fair. Okay. We're going into the ones where I'm actually like, yes, these are actually like, this is what I would definitely like if somebody asks what's like your favorite books. I'm like,
yeah,
it's these. On number 3 is the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden, which I am rereading right now. But when I read them first, I was like, I read the first book and I was like, wow, this is like written for me. And then I read the second one and I was like, oh, this is so specifically written for me. It feels illegal. And the third one was also good. I was like, damn, this is all extremely good. I love it. But yeah, no.
How many books is it?
It's a trilogy. It's a trilogy. 3 books. It's a trilogy. The first one is The Bear and the Nightingale. The second one is The Girl in the Tower. Yes. And the third one is The Winter of the Witch. And they're all very good. They're all very, very good. I'm currently trying to read them because I was like, well, they're winter books. I want to read them with the right winter vibes. But we don't have snow, so the vibes are off, man. The vibes are off.
Honestly, I know there's global warming and such, but January so far has just stabbed us in the back. It's been cold, but no snow.
For us, it's also barely cold. Like, most of the time, like, the snow would not stay even if we had it.
Oh. No, where I live, it would have been cold enough.
Yeah, no, it's just, I'm like, where's my snow? It's winter. I understand global warming is a thing, but I would still like some snow, you know?
Yeah.
Even with global warming in 2021, at the beginning of February, we had so much snow that it was like half a meter tall, which is unusual for our area. We just had that and it stayed for a while, and then we got another, like, then it all melted, and then like a week after, we got a bunch of snow, which was pinkish because Sahara sand was in it. Right.
It was girly pop snow. I remember.
It was so good. And this year, no snow.
Nothing.
I'm so mad.
I'm so winter mad.
It's my fucking snow, bitch.
No, I agree.
So the vibes are unfortunately off, and I haven't gotten that far in my reread, but I'm like, nah. I love these. These are so good.
My number 3 is also a trilogy, and I did feel like, oh, this is ticking far too many boxes. Where have you been? Is Realm Breaker. I enjoyed that so much. I know a lot of people were like, it's too slow, there's no smut, there's no this and that. I love, if you tell me, settle down, you know, for a trilogy, a fantasy trilogy, we're gonna go through all of the motions, you're gonna get enough time to enjoy everything, there's no rush. I love that. I don't need, you know, XYZ to happen all of the time. And in the third book, at some point, like at the halfway point, it felt like a lot of things were happening because obviously we're closing up on a series, right? So you do even get the feeling, but it had everything I like. It had like the will they, won't they, and not really enemies, but like strangers, to begrudging allies, to bickering, to oh well, maybe they will, they won't, you know, kind of that kind of thing. It had the typical young love kind of relationship. It had, you know, both of the villains going kind of codependently crazy on each other, romance. It had everything I wanted. It was truly scrumptious, and I really enjoyed it. I did not read Red Queen. I did not read anything else by Victoria Aveyard, but Realmbreaker really did it for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like all the people were like, "Oh, Realmbreaker was so much slower," and like
I loved that.
So, and I was like, you know that you're currently selling me on this. Like, I have read Red Queen, and the huge problem of it is that it was just hurrying through the motions and didn't actually leave the space for the narrative that it needed. So I was like, you know, you're actually telling me that this book series is better, that she has indeed improved and is better at handling what she's actually like planning to do.
Yeah, because
like,
I mean,
you could not. Okay, no, you could pay me to read Red Queen as a series, like, but I would not choose it by myself, right? Yeah. It's like, sure, you could pay me, but like, because I love money, but you couldn't. I wouldn't just pick it up organically, because I've read the first one and I was like, this was not good, man. The premise was interesting, but the execution was so mediocre. It was not worth it. But like, yeah, no, it's like, well, maybe I should read those books eventually. Maybe.
I didn't feel like it was even that slow. It's supposed to be a journey. Like, it's not we gotta go through these different steps, but it's like, you have the map in there. She's very like aware of the map. She's like, guys, then the map is here for a reason, right? We want to move through spaces, and those movements are like, you have the character development while they make their way through the lands.
The thing is, a lot of people talk about books as like slow because all they've read is like middle grade and YA, and they're like, wow, these things, there's not that much happening. And it's like, yeah, if you have 500 pages instead of 300, you actually have a lot more time to examine things, and quite frankly, you are kind of expected to have a bigger attention span and more patience than a 12-year-old, right? Like, that's kind of part of the deal when you're reading books for adults.
Yeah.
That are not marketed as fantasy erotica, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's...
That's definitely... I think Realmbreaker still got sorted into YA, but it definitely reads more as a fantasy with a little bit of romance in there than anything else. No, I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say that there's like everything checks out and that there's no plot holes or anything, but I had a glorious time reading it. I was like, yes.
I mean, that's also just like, I feel like if your real complaint with books is that, oh no, there was a plot hole or something, like the author forgot something, what are you doing? Like, there's so much to the experience of reading a story where it's like, is this really that meaningful? Like, does this really destroy everything else? Or is it just like a tiny thing where it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like,
yeah. No,
it really is just like, you know, sometimes I do wonder, like, do you just want to dislike things? Which is fine, but also, why are you reading it then? You're not having fun.
It's like, it's like not even a... You usually hate read because you enjoy a hate read. So it's like...
Yeah.
But...
Or you promised a book club that you'd read it, and then you're like, well, now we're stuck with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I do not understand it.
Well, what's your number 2? What book series did not make it to number 1?
We're in the glorious second place, which is... The Sculliman series by my beloved Naomi Novik, who writes things specifically targeted to me.
Of course.
Who I
love. How could I even question this? I think I already know what place number.
Overrepresented in my favorite books list already.
Yeah,
But
no, I mean...
It is still really funny to me that when the first book of the series, A Deadly Education, came out, and people were like, oh, it's like a dark academia vibes, it's like fantasy, and I was just like, this sounds so bad. This does not sound like something I want at all. I'm not buying this. And then years later, I picked it up for free from the library, and I was like, oh no, this is like the shit. Naomi Novik would never let me down. Thank you. Like, I was like, oh no, this is for me. That's crazy.
You could have been enjoying this so much sooner, you know? It's like...
But I was not upset that already, like, the series was completely out.
Yeah.
And I was also, like... I'm also glad that I waited, because, like, if it sounds like I won't like it, it's better that I don't buy it and read it. Just because it's, like, it's a new thing people are talking about.
Yeah.
So, no, I had a great time. It's so good.
Schollomancy is also 3 books, right?
Yeah, it is also a trilogy.
Yeah. I think I already know what your first place is gonna be, but
I mean,
you also
yes, I have said this many times.
But you also know the rest of...
Yeah.
You also know the rest of my list, honestly. My second place is Full Metal Alchemist. It's just... whenever people are like, oh my god, manga or anime, like, so dumb, yada yada, I'm like, listen, if there's one series I would suggest to you, depending on the person, I either say, oh, read Death Note, because Death Note is, like, very appealing in the concept and everything, or I'm like, bro, please try out Full Metal Alchemist. The story, the characters, everything, the tension, the motivation, the fact that you... like, don't even notice how the characters grow up throughout the story, and then you look at the last couple of panels and you switch back to the first, and you're like, holy fucking... like, it creeps up on you.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a time skip. In, like, you have, of course, you have the what happened in the past when they were very young, and you have the what's currently happening, but you don't really have a huge time skip. You don't have this, oh my god, suddenly the main character is tall and buff. You don't have that. It sneaks up on you. The maturity of Edward and Elle sneaks up on you. Well, Elle doesn't grow, but, you know.
He's big since the beginning.
He just
very
stays.
tall.
He is tall and buff since the beginning of the series, yeah. But it's just... it's so beautiful, and I love the universe itself of the alchemy, you know, sprinkle in a little bit of magic and science, the themes that they have in there with military and all of that. It's it's perfect. I love it. They kill one of my favorite characters as well. You know, all is good.
That's how you know it's good, when the writer's like, you know what, no, it is necessary.
Yeah, I have to say, the first time I got into contact with Full Metal Alchemist, I watched the quote unquote normal Full Metal Alchemist anime, and I was like, what is happening here? Like, the ending, super weird, because I was like, oh, the beginning checks out perfectly, and then the end was weird. And then I found out, oh, we have Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which adheres, like, sometimes frame by frame to the anime.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you did not let me down. Your writing was good.
Yeah,
always.
It did make sense.
It did make sense.
It's just how adaptations sometimes go off the rails into insanity.
Yeah.
Like, the way that, like, you know, Black Butler is fairly consistent, but then you watch the anime and it's insane. Like, it goes off the rails into Crazy Town to a degree that makes absolutely no sense. And you're just sitting there like, what was this? What was this?
I think the only time I liked a anime only plot more than, like, or appreciated than the manga was in Bleach. There's a filler arc where in Bleach the swords become, like, sentient people, like the sword personas come out of the swords and basically kind of rebel.
They just hang out.
No, they rebel against, you know, their wielders, and then each of them has to kind of fight their own sword again.
That's really funny.
And I honestly, that was I'm not very good at summing this up, but honestly, that was one of the plots where I was like, honestly, I'm digging it. This is fun. This is better than any other filler shit you have thrown at me.
Yeah, no, I mean, there are other filler arcs in Bleach where you're just like, why are we doing this, man?
Exactly. And that's why Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is so scrumptious, because there's no filler there. It's just chapter by chapter, really page by page. It's perfect. I love all of the concepts. I love it's just I love it when you have magic that is like tried to be combined or based on science. It's also why I really like Arcane, because they do a similar thing, but in Fullmetal Alchemist with the whole alchemy like equivalent exchange kind of thing. I just love it. I just love it. It's just
It's very funny to me that you're like, I love when magic is based on science, where I'm just like, I hate when they bastardize science to make it work with magic in some way, because it feels like, no, it's just like, why are you doing this to science, man? You didn't need to. Like, because a lot of this happens, especially in like urban fantasy and stuff, where they're trying to explain their magic in like a scientific way, and I'm like, stop bastardizing science to explain your magic. Just say it's magic. It's not real. But like in a fantasy world, it's like, obviously the alchemy is not very science. Like it's not like pulling up literal science concepts and being like, this is how. They're just like, no, we're doing alchemy the way like it was. We're taking inspiration from 200, 300 years ago, when people actually believed you could do magic because they were crazy and huffing, fumes, whatever. Yeah. Because that's just what science was at the time, and here it works.
Yeah, let me phrase it differently. Because you are correct, like the urban like current nowadays.
Yeah, you mean when like there's magic that can be approached scientifically in the universe.
I like the scientific pursuit of magic. If you
I
have
do.
that in the series, you got me. It's like, but yeah.
No, I do like that much more than like a magic based in like actual science, because I'm always like, when that happens, I'm just like, just leave science alone. You do not understand what you're actually talking about, so you're just saying wrong things about real science to explain your magic, and it's not. Just say it's magic. Just admit that it's not. It wouldn't work in the real world, because the real science. Because we know how the world works, and it's impossible. Okay, just commit to it. It's fine.
I like the scholarly approach.
Yeah.
To that, but that was my second place. I just love it. It's one of those series that never leaves my brain. It's just like we're married in some sort of way.
Well,
it's like,
it left your brain while we were talking about favorite characters, but otherwise it's always there.
I still feel so bad about that, because I was laying awake that night when you were like, oh, you didn't mention any of those, and I was like, no. Yeah. Okay. So what's your?
It happens.
What could be?
What could it possibly be? I've totally not mentioned this many times, especially not to you or anything. It's The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cockman. Wow, that's crazy. Who could have seen that coming? What a reveal. Wow. It's like, wow, that's crazy, man. You never talk about this.
Could have never seen that coming. Now, we've got an update, people. I got gifted a book for my birthday, and unlike with the Night Circus, I decided that if Ren gifts me a book, I will start to read it as soon as possible. So I have started reading The Invisible Library, and so far I am immensely enjoying myself.
I'm so happy to hear this.
I can approve at least the first 80 pages of the book as really good. I am having a blast.
Would you describe Irene Winters as a bisexual icon?
So far, yes.
Yes. Good.
Yeah.
No, she just gets better. She's incredible. I love her.
So far, I like all of the characters.
No, obviously, I also like a lot of the characters.
So it's like, I have yet to meet a character where I'm like, they're fine.
Yeah, you're like, I don't like this guy.
Yeah, with all of them, I'm like, oh, you have something about you that I think it makes me curious. So yeah, it's good. It's good. I endorse.
No, I'm glad you're enjoying it so far.
Do you want to talk more about your first place?
I don't know. I feel like I talk about it all the time, so I'm like, I don't even know if it needs to be said. Like, what even is there to say? It's an 8-book series. It's very good. My favorite book is the 5th one because it's a murder mystery, like a straight out like murder mystery. And
I was about to say, isn't the first one also kind of?
The first one's also a bit more, but the first one is also a lot more a hunt for the book than it is a murder mystery.
Okay.
Right? Because like the death of the guy who owned the book takes quite the backseat. Because at the end of the day, right? Irene
they want the book.
Shit.
Yeah.
They just need that book.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah. No. But I mean, yeah, the series is about a protagonist, Irene, who works for an interdimensional library that collects books from different alternate versions of Earth. And they collect fiction books because science is the same everywhere. The laws of nature are consistent, so there are no unique texts to be found that don't contain anything that other worlds don't. But fiction varies across the universes, so they collect them to stabilize the connection of the library to those worlds and also stabilize the worlds in themselves, because we have forces of chaos and forces of order, which are both antithetical to human life, and we need a mix of both and like a certain level of neutrality, you know. We need a neutral pH in our water so we don't die.
So the fish don't swim belly up.
And that's what the library is for. And yeah, a lot the books are mostly in many cases about searching for a specific book, and then things go off the rails crazy town. As they do, where you're like, oh man, this was supposed to be easy, but then it's just like...
Yeah, it's just, it gets worse.
Why did I step into a problem I didn't even know was happening? Great!
Perfect setup, basically.
It's good. A lot of the books start with Irene going on a more standard retrieval mission for a book, where it's like, okay, yeah, something a little bit dangerous happens, but it's like, okay, this is within parameters.
Yeah.
And then you get to the real story happening, what the book is mostly about, and you're like, man, this is like an insane thing to happen, even for your work, you know? This, like, even for your life, this is crazy shit. You are not being paid enough, definitely.
Does she get paid?
Mm-mm.
I was about to say.
No, she does not get paid. These people don't get paid.
Wait a second.
Obviously, like, they're, like, they don't have problems getting money in the alternate worlds when they're there, because they have, like, their own type of magic, and obviously they all have skills and knowledge that can easily be applied, and a lot of them, they're a lot more, like, trained spies than they are a standard librarian, so it's like... They steal shit and commit crimes all the time, so they're not worried about money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was about to say.
But yeah, no, they're not getting literally paid, but I mean, they have access to all those books now.
They do.
So yeah.
No, I really enjoyed the first glimpse I saw so far.
Very happy to hear that.
My first one isn't a surprise either. It's
Could it have start with the letter E? Maybe.
Actually, no, it starts with letter T.
I'm sorry, of course.
It's The Edge Chronicles by Paul Stewart and Chris Riddle.
No, what?
Again, got infected with this when I was 11 years old. Never left.
It happens early, yeah.
Just
protect your kids.
Keeps on giving. This series again has like a scientific pursuit theme. I think that's a thing that I just really enjoy in fiction. We have like this, oh my god, you know, like we're looking at this, we're trying to like this wonder for the world, and this scientific
you just
method.
Like science.
Yeah. And Edge Chronicles had such a... Obviously, it has illustrations. That was a big plus for me as a kid, and still is. I really like Chris Riddle stuff. But also just the overall, like, universe, the setup, the systems in there, the way that the people interact. It's like a little bit steampunky, but also not really, like, you've got this whole centuries spanning overarching concept of how the industry develops, how the science develops next to it, all of the characters. Apart from a couple of either off-screen romances or very tame romances, it's very romance-free, which I immensely enjoyed as a kid, and I still enjoy. I'm like, yes, this is about the power of friendship and just platonic love. I'm so here for it. It's just, I just love it. This is never gonna change. Well, never say never, but honestly, it's never gonna change.
I was about to say it's probably gonna keep its number one spot for quite a while.
I think part of the reason why is because it was like my childhood series, so that's kind of ingrained in the brain as you love this. Stay.
You know what should have been on this list too?
What?
Sternschweif. If we're talking about childhood series.
I did have Warrior Cats on it as honorable mentions, but I was like, I only like remember season 1 of Warrior Cats. I did not progress much into the other seasons when I was a kid. So I was like...
me neither. I started the first book of the second season and I was like, you know what? I don't care about these people.
Yeah, it's not.
And then I went back to reread season 1.
Yeah, so I was like, I also thought about Percy Jackson, but no, it's For those of you who do not know Sternenschweif, I don't know what the English title for it is, but there is an English. And then there's
is it like originally English? Probably.
Yeah, right? I think so. Yeah. It's like a unicorn children's book story.
Series. It's very cute.
Which also
and
had
of course you're a horse girl, so this was like very meaningful to you.
It was so meaningful to me. Let me look
this
up real quick.
It's about ponies that can transform into unicorns by night if you say the right words, and like our protagonist just moved into a small town and got like a little pony that can turn into a unicorn. And
the original title was My Secret Unicorn. The English version of it. That's cute. Yeah, because it's a typical UK countryside kind of.
Yeah, I was about to say this does sound very. The names were very English, I think too.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, this is not. This is not like German culture. This is
pony club kind of style. Yeah, it was very, very cute, and I just really loved it. Yeah, that was sweet. Recently saw the new Sternschweif books, and they did not keep the aesthetic. I was shocked.
That's a shame.
I was like, what? No. But yeah, I think looking at my list, most of the list is like, I started reading this or got into contact with this when I was younger, and that just really tickled my brain, and that never left. I think the only one that I started reading like remotely in the last couple of years is Realm Breaker. All the other ones a series I read as a teen or child.
That's really funny, because for me it's the opposite. Like, except for Pandora Hearts, this is all stuff I started reading after I was an adult and read things in English. These are all newer things, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thankfully these series were popular enough to be translated to German so that I could access them sooner.
Yeah. No, I mean, a lot of these also didn't come out much earlier when I was a kid. Like, obviously. I think The Bear and the Nightingale came out in, like, 2016, 2017. I remember that it was mentioned in a lot of BookTube videos because I was watching it a lot at the time. And that's why I read it, and I was like, wow, this is really good.
But, yeah. No, I think we have a good selection in terms of what we picked as series. Nothing too unhinged.
I was about to say, I think you can do a lot of psychoanalysis with this if you would like to.
You can sit down and be like,
but it's also not necessary because we say all these things like out loud all the time. So it's like, I don't think you need to do a lot of analysis. I mean, you can, but like, what for? The solution is there in a different video.
Yeah. So if you guys have any favorite series, feel free to drop them in the comments. We won't judge. Maybe a little, but mostly don't.
Listen, if your favorites list includes Agatar, I want like an essay length explanation as to why.
So
or no, wait, actor, like I'm like, okay, I can see it. If your favorite series is like the fucking Crescent City series, I want a long explanation and like I want you to explain this. I'm like, this needs defense. This is not.
If it's Fourth Wing, give us an essay.
And also, like, if it's Fourth Wing, are you aware that other books with dragons exist and that many of them are much, much better than what you're reading right there?
I was about to suggest to read Divergent, but I don't think the last Divergent book was very good, so maybe don't.
I don't think Divergent has dragons. I'm not an expert, but I don't think it does.
No, for the vibes! For the vibes! Jesus.
I mean, I've never read it, but from what I've heard, 0 dragons in that one.
Getting back to the allegations dropped in our year in a review that my recommendations are bad. Civil War is coming, guys. Duck number 2 is gearing up.
On it, okay? We're working on it. We're cooking up drama. Don't worry about it. There will be a crazy fallout and then a reunion like a week later. Don't worry about it.
We will have a divorce era. Don't you worry about that.
You won't see. Oh wait, I was like, you won't see it, but we could like draw like running mascara on the ducks to show that they're like in their divorced era, that they're like upsetty spaghetti about.
We can have like the meme they had for Arcane with like, gay people don't deal with breakups very well. It's like Vi just completely like, and Jace just both completely done.
Diversity lost, the Little Duck Book Club broke up.
Yeah, no, with that we're not. Friends for life, baby.
Best friends for life.
That being said, again, please drop your favorite series, or if you have any where you're like, oh, this, analyzing our favorites, any series that you think either Duck number 1 or Duck number 2 would really enjoy, would love to see that. And yeah, with that, we actually have a bit of a shorter episode.
I was about to say, we were so quick. We didn't do like in-depth description of these series, but I'm like, you can always Google them and like see if you like it.
Especially for our top 5. I want you to
I feel like these are well-known
them.
Series too, like that we have A, talked about before, or B, that you have definitely heard of before. If you were in like any kind of book adjacent space. Like I don't feel like they're like obscure. No, check them out, look at them, enjoy. You're gonna have a scrumptious time. And if you don't enjoy, don't tell us. Just silently suffer and be like, well, not my thing. We don't condone this kind of behavior on our channel. Don't tell us you don't like the books we like, okay? It's fine. Alright. Bye-bye.